Okay, so we are recording. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. It's lovely to see so many of you here. There's lots of people popping up on my screen. My name is Becky. If you haven't met me before or seen any of my stuff before, I run a little tangling corner of the internet called Ivy's Corner. People do get confused because my name is Becky, not Ivy. Um, but my company is called Ivy's Corner. It's sort of loosely named after my mum, who was a CZT before she suddenly passed away a couple of years ago. But she's the inspiration for me tangling, and I often think that she would be absolutely beside herself if she knew that I was teaching a class to people all over the world. So that's where the name comes from. I'm based in just north of London in the UK, in a county called Hertfordshire, and I did my CZD training back. So I'm CZT 41, so that was September 2023, and yeah, just been in love with the Zentangle method ever since. Really, well, before I suppose. Um, and I just thought it would be a really nice opportunity to share a little bit of Zentangle with people who are familiar with the method, but also with anyone who has never come across it before and maybe is having a go for the first time. I find personally, like, I have a super busy schedule. I've got, two young kids, and when I'm busy with work and running them about and taking them till they've got a busier social life than I have, I find that I lose time for creativity. And so I really thought it would be nice to kind of put an appointment in my diary to do something creative, some tangling, and that maybe other people would benefit from that as well. So that's kind of where this has all come from. So let me just hop over onto a different camera so you can see my desk. And as I said, if the technology is kind, you should be able to see my face in the corner. Hopefully that is working. And so on my desk here, I have some Zentangle materials. Now I have a standard square tile, which is a Zentangle official tile. Absolutely fine. If you don't have a Zentangle tile, you can use any paper, any kind of nice sort of relatively heavy kind of watercolor paper. About 300 GSM is 250 to 300 is good, with a little bit of you can still see there's a little bit of a grain on it there. And the Zentangle tiles are just cut to this size, a sort of standard size square, so that we can it has a small format, which is nice and quick to complete, but it's, obviously it tessellates nicely as well when you have a whole group of people who are tangling together. You can lay those together as a mosaic and it looks really, really lovely. So that's the Zentangle tile I'm going to be using. I've got Micron PN. Any fine liner will be perfectly fine. I like the PN with it's kind of does a little bit of everything, nice fine lines and also some thicker lines as well. And then my Zentangle pencil and my tortillon. Tortillon, if you're not familiar with the tortillon, is a blending stump, which will help you to kind of create some gradients and shading, which we will get to a little bit later. But if you don't have one of these, then you can just use a Q-tip or a cotton bud works well. And it's not essential that you have it, but it will kind of help you to create this beautiful gradient if as and when we get to the shading part of the Zentangle method. So I am aware that some of you might not be familiar with the Zentangle method, so I will try and go at a pace that's good for beginners as well as for people who are experienced. I will just say I am very laid back, and I'm absolutely not about to tell you must do what I do. In fact, I will say several times today that you have options, you can do whatever you want to do. If you are an experienced tangler and I'm suggesting something that you don't fancy doing, then you know what you like to do. So feel free to take the inspiration and run with it. Use whatever surface you like. If you like to use coloured tiles, please do that. So, you can do your own thing. So without further ado, I'm going to just double check that we're recording. We definitely are. Without further ado, let's get tangling, and let's take a deep breath. And we can just take a few moments to enjoy the first step of the Zentangle method, which is gratitude and appreciation. If you're not familiar with the Zentangle method, the 8 basic steps begin with gratitude and appreciation. And so I don't tend to take a long time of meditating over this, but I just think it's a really nice opportunity in a busy world to take a moment to think of something that we're grateful for today. I am so grateful that all of you have dialed in to be with me live today, and I'm grateful for anyone who's going to be watching this back later on as well on the recording. So many of you have signed up, and I'm actually blown away by how many people have done. So I'm really grateful for all of you, each and every one of you today who is listening. But I think just for the benefits of to our mental health of having something that we're grateful for have been well proven, and just holding something, however small, in your mind as you tangle today is a really lovely thing to do for yourself. So we can just set our feet on the floor. I always sit scrunched up in my chair until I remind myself at this point to sit more comfortably with my feet on the floor, and just to relax my shoulders, take a few more deep breaths, maybe stretch out my fingers, and get ready to tangle. So the second step of the Zentangle method is going to be to add some corner dots. So why not? So we're going to do our corner dots to start with, and I'm going to place those in the corner of my tile, and I'm pressing a little harder than I perhaps would do if I wasn't tangling in front of lots of people, so that you can see it on the camera. And then I'm just going to join those together. So I'm going to do a line. It's not particularly straight, it's not particularly even, and I'm pressing harder again than I probably would do if I was just tangling for me. And this border may not be used. We'll see how we go. So that's step number 3 of the Zentangle method. And then step number 4 is to add a string. Now, if you're not familiar with Zentangle, a string is just a lightly drawn pencil line on your tile, which will guide you in placing the tangles that you're going to be using today. This is quite a fun string. I was going to do something different this morning, and then I just changed my mind. Thought this was quite a fun one. I'm going to start off by just inviting you to place a little dot in the center of your tile. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to be placing some dots just kind of on the corners here, sort of either side of each corner. And I'm going to suggest that you maybe go slightly further than the sort of the top part of your pencil. Let me just see if I can zoom you in, actually, because I feel like you might benefit from a little zoom at this point just to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go slightly further than this. When I did it earlier, actually, I had a pencil that had a longer, what do you call this part of the pencil? I don't know. This part, it's slightly longer. So I'm going to go sort of for that sort of distance. So maybe, I don't know, what's that? Maybe 2 centimeters or something. If you deal in inches, maybe that's slightly less than an inch. But, you know, doesn't matter. So we're going to go, I've got it here, so I'll use it, about there on that side, and then the same on this side. So we're blocking off this little corner here. Let me just make sure there's no chat at the moment, so that's all good. Hopefully you can all hear and see me. I'm going to do the same on all of the other corners. So maybe, yeah, a couple of centimeters or something. I'm sort of using this like a ruler, but again, it doesn't really matter. Let's get rid of it. There we go. So on all of the corners, I've placed these dots just to kind of give me a bit of a marker for where I'm going to place my string line. Now, I started my plan of this lesson by just kind of joining these to here and having these little triangles, but then I thought, it just feels a bit too boring. So I thought I would do some curves. If you want to do straight lines here, then absolutely feel free. I am going to kind of create, I suppose, a sort of an S curve from here, crossing this center point here and coming up to this side. So let's join a nice curved line here from the top corner on this left-hand side here, and then bringing this one back up here So we've kind of got, what does that look like? Like I'm going to say like a shark's tooth. Sounds all very dramatic, doesn't it? And then I'm going to turn my tile and do the same thing in the same direction, meeting in the center. So we've kind of got this ribbon almost that comes to a point at the center, like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing between these two other points. So always going in the same direction. If yours is going this way, round to the right, that's absolutely fine. Or if you end up doing this one coming in sort of round in a clockwise way at the top and this one coming round anti-clockwise, again, that doesn't matter either. You're just going to have a smaller space here. But I'm kind of going, it's kind of going to look a little bit like a windmill, I think. And this is our string. There we go. It's sort of a wonky, an imperfect wonky windmill, if you will. So there is our string. Now, to tangling, let me move over. Step number 5, let me just zoom out again for you. Step number 5 of the Zentangle method is adding our patterns. Now, if you are completely new to Zentangle, you might be wondering what a tangle is. It's just a pattern. So we call all the different patterns in Zentangle tangles, and they all have names. There are thousands of them. For the purposes of today, we'll be using HQ tangles, so tangles that are kind of named and stepped out by the team at Zentangle HQ based in the United States. And they have lots of names that are kind of given to them for various different reasons, but it just kind of gives us a language around patterns. Zentangle don't claim to own any of these patterns. No one owns them. A lot of them have existed, or many of them, all of them probably have existed, you know, far earlier than Zentangle ever existed, and probably, you know, any of us ever existed, and have been used throughout, you know, humanity and history. So no one owns them. They just are given names so that we have a common language around pattern. And for today's tangling, I'm going to put this to one side because shading doesn't come until a little bit later on. For today's tangling, I thought, why not fly by the seat of my pants a little bit and do something. I don't even know what we're going to be tangling today. How do you like that? We are going to be using a resource which I created using Project Pack 10 from the Zentangle HQ. So some of you may be familiar with Project Pack 10, and I'll do a little reveal here. This is my Project Pack 10, which I created. The project packs from Zentangle HQ are kits that are provided by the team there, and they have accompanying videos, which are amazing resources for anyone to watch. And I do recommend that you go and follow some. This is one of my favourites. Project Pack 10 is based around the idea of when the early Zentangle kits were kind of created and shared with the world, they had these Zentangle legend, what they called it a legend, an L5. I don't know why it's L5, they just called it L5, was legend number 5, which had 20 different tangles listed, and it came with a 20-sided die, which meant that you could have the element of chance in your tangling. And so I thought, let's do that. Why not make life difficult for myself and not plan what I'm going to be teaching? So we're going to be finding, this is as new for you as it is for me. So we'll find out in a second what we're going to be tangling. And actually, I also wanted to talk about this today because I actually I've written a blog today all about creative block, and how sometimes when you sit down to tangle, it can feel a little bit difficult to know where to start. And certainly after I started tangling, I found I didn't really know where to start, what to do. I did the beginner's lessons, and then I thought, oh, well, there's just so much. There's a whole world of Zentangle out there. And this I really loved because it gave me something to start, something to do, and a prompt to start, even when I felt like I had nothing to kind of, no inspiration. So we're going to be using, I mean, obviously I'll just very briefly flick through some of the pages here, but bearing in mind we've got lots of potentially lots of new people here today and watching the recording, I thought I would start fairly simple and do L5 for you today. Let's see, can I zoom out any more than that? I don't think I can. but that's okay. I'll sort of swivel it this way. So we have 20 different tangles here and a 20-sided die. And so I'm going to roll this dice and we will see what we will be tangling. Here is my pile and here is my dice. So cross your fingers, everyone. Let's hope we get your favourite. What we're going to start with, number 4, flu. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, flu. Flu is here. I practiced this earlier and I'm probably going to get completely different tangles to what I did earlier on, but I suppose that's the whole point, isn't it? So we're going to be drawing flu. Now, flu is a little bit like fescue, if you're familiar with that one. And the kind of part of this, the joy of this now is that I'm going to have to think on the go about how I want to put that into this string. So my plan is to kind of, I think I'm going to grow it this way out of the center here. And if you want to do something different, then please do. If you don't want to do flu, then don't do flu. If you want to do something else, please do. If you want to do something in a different way to how I'm drawing it, please do. This is all here just to kind of prompt and we can all tangle together. So I am going to draw my first stroke now of my first tangle, and I'm going to be drawing it from the center here, and a nice curved line here, ending in an inky space. And I think I'm going to leave a little bit of a white highlight there as well. And then what I'm going to do is simply aura this shape that I've placed, and I'm going to see how I go, but I'm probably going to keep everything roughly within this space that I have. Now, I should say auraing, if you're not familiar with the concept of aura, is to just draw a line around a line that is already existing on your tile. So a nice narrow aura in this case. I'm going to do my next one and holybore it. There's another term that you might not be familiar with. Holyboring is drawing behind. It's just, I've picked up my pen here, lifted it, imagined where it would go behind, and I'm going to continue drawing on the other side. And then auraing. Now, the nice thing about Zentangle tiles is that we can turn them so that our hand stays in the most comfortable position for us. So feel free to turn your tile. And you'll notice here that my second one is traveling in a different direction. But you can do whatever feels good to you. So there's my third one. And just really taking your time and enjoying the kind of the calmness that you get when the pen is, doing its thing and drawing these lovely dark inky lines on the paper. And it's this repetitive nature of the patterns that is, why we kind of find ourselves lost in doing this. I'm going to have one coming through here. Nice inky section at the end. And then aura. And I'm sort of using this curve as a bit of a guideline, but obviously they're not all going to be following that same line. And I am just decided that I've made the executive decision that this border doesn't matter at this point. So I'm going to take my string line. You don't have to draw this string line in if you don't want, but I've just decided that I want to ignore it at this point. I may retain the border when I fill these other sections, but we'll see. It kind of all depends on what we end up tangling, doesn't it? So there we go. You don't have to extend yours if you don't want to. You can just cross that line, cross that bridge when you come to it. So when I aura, I like to have the line that I'm following on, because I'm right-handed, I have the line that I'm following on the left-hand side of the line, if that makes sense. So I can see the line, my pen isn't covering it. I say that I like to do that in some instances. I might not. Nobody's perfect. And I'm just going to fill this space. This one's going to come up here, so over my border. I'm not following my own advice then. I was drawing on the other side. But it does help if you draw your aura on the side that your pen is, with your hand, I find. I might take one of these off the tile, so it kind of is like it's disappearing away. And if you feel like you want to, you could ink in the spaces in between, so fill them in with black ink, if that is something that you feel like you'd like to do. I'm not going to do that just for the moment because I feel like, because I don't know what's coming next. Who knows, we might have a very inky dramatic tangle next. So I might come back and fill them in a bit, but we'll see how we go. And I quite like these inky spaces on the end here as well. So they are giving us a little bit of weight. And I am, once I'm happy with the amount of flue I have in this space, I'm going to do the same thing, but on the opposing side. So you obviously got 4 of your kind of windmilly arms, and I'm going to do my second one opposite. So if you wanted to do the same 2 on the same side, then you absolutely can. Mine are going to come this way. In fact, I might even see about joining this one and creating almost like an S curve. Because this is the sort of the tangle that's going to appear. The first tangles that you draw, the first patterns or lines that you draw on your tile are going to appear on top. Anything else you draw, you would normally hollybore. Almost always, there's rarely an instance where you would just draw over the top of another line that you've already placed on your tile. And so these first ones are going to appear on top. So I'm linking those together so they kind of have that that sense of joining, at least at that central point anyway. I'm just taking my time. I'm placing my auras down. So I mentioned this blog I've just written about creative block, and I don't know if anybody else has any ever finds that that's the case, that they kind of sit down to tangle and then sort of aren't really sure what to do. There's so much inspiration out there, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. So I think sometimes having a place to go where you can have prompts, or you can have suggestions from other people, or even that you can see other people's work and kind of take inspiration from that. I'm a big believer in in taking inspiration, or from other people, other artists. I think sometimes, I think when I first started, I was like, well, I can't try and draw that because that's, it'll be copying. But I think there's nothing new in art, and I think it's fine to take inspiration from people, because sometimes you might, you'll never, even if you're drawing the same tile that somebody else has drawn, it's never going to be the same, because someone once said to me, well, no one's handwriting is the same. If you write the same words, no one has the same handwriting. And it's the same with Zentangle. You can draw the same tile, but it's never going to look the same as anybody else's, and you can put your own individual thoughts and ideas and spin on things. So that's one of the reasons I love Zentangle. But I think taking inspiration from other people, or tangling together in a group like this, or with people in person, is a really lovely thing to do, to kind of help you get rid of that creative block. Sometimes I do find that I sit down at the end of a day when I've just got the kids to go to bed and finish tidying up the kitchen and all the other stuff that you have to do when you're a grown up, all the adulting stuff, that I just don't have the energy to even really contemplate thinking about how to be creative. And so I just find sometimes having my kit right next to me is a good way to start the process off. But there's so many people you can follow on online, or even the Mosaic app. I'm terrible. I don't use that as often as I should. If you're not familiar with that, it's an app sort of run by Zentangle HQ, and people post their tiles on there, and you can follow your favorite kind of Zentangle artists and see what people are doing, and it's a really nice way of seeing what's going on in the Zentangle community. I am waffling at you, I'm afraid. I do like to talk. So, here is my flue. That's a very straight one I've just finished on there. And it's all kind of starting to disappear behind itself. Maybe I'll just do one more that's going to disappear off the tile like that into another realm. There we go. So that is my flue. Quite pleased with that. Wasn't sure how it's going to turn out when I rolled a 4. You might still be tangling flue. I can't see many of you, so there's still heads down. But don't worry if you are. I'll maybe give you a few more minutes while I have a drink of water, otherwise I'll lose my voice by the end of this. If anyone wants to ask any questions, as I said, please feel free. If anyone wants to put anything in the chat rather than asking questions in vocally, then feel free to do that too. I think I might go ahead and roll the dice just to see where we end up next. So here is my L5 again. There's all sorts of tangles on here. And sometimes my plan with this is just to do whatever I roll, unless I roll flue again, in which case I probably won't. I probably won't do it again. But just to kind of go with whatever comes out of the dice, really. So we might end up with lots and lots of ink coming up next. We might end up with lots of more organic-y stuff. So we'll find out where we get to. But let's roll again. Should do a drum roll. 20. Flukes. There we go. So I don't know if you're familiar with Flukes, but here it is here. So it's a grid tangle. I'm glad we've got at least one grid tangle in here. But how to draw it on our string is the question. I am going to, let me have a think for a second. It's interesting because you might be thinking, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. In which case you can do something different. I think I'm going to just kind of create my grid. It's not going to be very detailed because I don't want to go teeny tiny. When I first started tangling, I did used to draw everything really, really teeny tiny. And I think sometimes, especially with inky tangles, it benefits from you tangling bigger, because you have more opportunity and space to add shading, which gives it more depth and dimension. And also it can just all look a bit too kind of oh, hello, there's a first timer here. Hello, I apologize if I am using too much terminology for you. But it's lovely to have someone who's a first timer new to Zentangle. Thank you so much for joining us. I should say, actually, if you are completely new to Zentangle, there might be a couple of you. There's all sorts of beginners resources. I actually have a free introduction lesson on my website that you can do completely for free, and then also a beginner's course as well. So check that out if you wanted to do any kind of more introduction-y stuff. Some of this might be a little bit more fiddly or a little bit, might be going too fast for you and using too much terminology, but yeah, just see how you go. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask whilst we're here, or afterwards as well. You can drop me an email. Okay, so I'm going to be drawing my grid now. I'm going to be placing down a grid on my other two windmill arms, and I'm going to just restate them to start off with. So nice and slow, I'm just going to restate this one here and take it off the tile. And I'm actually going to just leave a slightly wider, because we started with this point in the center, didn't we? So I'm going to just leave it a little bit wider than perhaps it would have been otherwise, now that I know what I'm fitting in here. There we go. And I'm going to simply divide this into two again, I think, down the middle. I could go smaller, but I worry that it will be too teeny for everyone to kind of everyone to see. Just checking I am spotlit for everyone, so hopefully everyone can see. So I'm going to just divide this in the center here and follow down and through and then off the tile here. And once I've done that, I'm then going to divide up the spaces perpendicular to these lines. I mean, obviously they're not straight, so it won't be completely like 90-degree, but you know, the idea of it is there. And I'm going to do a little curve as well, just a gentle one. And I'm going to keep, some of these obviously are quite small here, but I'm going to try and keep them reasonably large because, as I said, I don't want to do teeny tiny tangling. So there's my grid, if you can call it that. I suppose you can when it's on a curve like that. Now for flukes, there's a couple of different kind of ways that you can draw it. If flukes essentially is comprised of this corner inky space and then some auras. So you can shade it in lots of different ways to kind of give you different effects. And you can choose to put your inky square in any corner of your grid here. I think I'm going to put mine in the kind of bottom left corner. So I'll show you just on one square, but you might find that you prefer to do each kind of step of this pattern on each of them. So do your inky square in all of them and then do all the auras. But I'll show you in just one for now. So I'm going to cap off this bottom corner here with a kind of a square that's roughly halfway and then ink that in. So as I said, you might then want to go ahead and fill all of those squares in one go for all of those different squares. But the way that I like to draw flukes is to kind of think about how many auras I want to fit in here. You can obviously do very fine ones that will be much finer and smaller, and they'll fit more of them in. But I think for ease, I'm going to just do 2 additional auras. And I like to put dots in the corner because it gives me somewhere to aim for. So I'm now kind of going to start here and come down. And then I'm going to turn my tile and do the same here. And I like to kind of draw towards me, I think. I feel like I have more control over the pen that way. So that is the basic pattern for flukes. And now you can go ahead and just repeat that in all of the squares. So grid tangles are nice for kind of this meditative element, this repetition. If you wanted to, you could play around with mirroring things or flipping them around, but I'm going to keep them all the same today. So I'm going to do my 2 dots and then my auras. And I'm actually going to start doing my squares in the same way with that dot, just to kind of give me somewhere to aim for. And I might start doing the whole thing one step at a time. When you get to these much narrower spaces down the bottom, you're going to have to, sometimes it's just like it's going to be an idea of the pattern rather than the full pattern itself as it is expressed in the other squares, because obviously the space is very small, so it'll be difficult to get the full pattern in there. Maybe if you had a very fine pen, it would work better. but sometimes it doesn't really matter. The idea of it is there, and your eye sort of tricks your brain tricks your eye, I suppose, into filling in the gaps. So it just assumes that it's repeating itself. So I'm going to be inking these in. And if you have a slightly thicker pen, or if you're using a fine pen like an 01 and you have a thicker pen, you might like to switch to a slightly thicker nib to give you a bit more coverage. Because sometimes I find the 01 can be a little scratchy. But just be aware that anytime you're inking or adding ink to your tile, then you may have sort of, it takes a little while sometimes for the black ink to dry. So you might like to just be careful of where, or, work your way down and away from your hand, like fill in away from where you've previously done it to avoid any smudges. And you probably won't smudge it, but it might just transfer onto the side of your hand. I noticed here that someone's I've sort of answered it. So the question is, do you generally keep to the same pen or change? And the answer to that is meh, don't know, depends. Depends what I'm doing. Depends if I'm at my desk, which is normally very strewn about with pens. I mean, just as I'm sat here right now, I have four other pens right here, just from other stuff I've been doing: an 05 green, an 05 black, an 01 brown, and what's that one? An 01 black. So the answer to that is yes, I do switch pens. But it depends on, as I said, what I'm doing, and where I am. If I'm tangling not at home, I will obviously stick to what I have in my little bag that I take with me. But you just do you, basically, is the answer to that. There's no rules really. There's guidelines in the Zentangle method. And sometimes I think people worry that they aren't doing it right. And actually, I always say, like, the Zentangle police aren't going to come after you. There is no Zentangle police who are going to come and tell you you've done it the wrong way. And actually, it's quite freeing when you realise that the only rules that you have are the ones that you give yourself. You can do anything. You can draw flukes completely differently to me if you want to. You could do it with wiggly lines. You can do, you could do flu with straight lines. That you can. There's something quite freeing, as I say, of kind of when you have done this a little while and you realise that actually it doesn't matter. And I say that kind of fairly flippantly, because obviously it does matter. Like, you're sitting and you're giving yourself the time to tangle, and the process is something that you're giving yourself. But it ultimately, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter also if something goes wrong, if you make a misstroke, or something doesn't come out quite the way that you hoped that it would. There's always another bit of paper, and you can always try again another time, or learn from things, like next time you do the same pattern, you can think, well, I preferred it when it looked like this, so I'll do it that way next time. I'm taking my time and waffling too much here, so I shall get on with my flukes. Oh, someone French. Hello. A newbie too in France. Is the aura a series of lines? So an aura in Zentangle, in the Zentangle method, is simply a line that is drawn alongside another line. So, or around another line, and another shape that is placed on the tile. So, as an example, let me flip over and show you on the back here. If I was to aura, so I'm going to draw an orb. It's an orb, not a circle. I might come on to that in a bit, if we do some stuff with orbs. An aura of this orb would simply be drawing a line around that shape, like so. If I were to aura this Zentangle logo, it would look like this. Or it might look finer, like a narrower aura or a wider aura, depending on what you're doing or what look you want to achieve. But essentially, an aura is just drawing around another shape. Hopefully that answers your question. So I'm doing auras with here. I'm auraing this square inky space. And just auraing that shape. And that's kind of part of the standard step out of Flukes as a tangle. As I said, if you are completely new to Zentangle, feel free to hop over to my website where there is a free introduction lesson. If you're not completely new to Zentangle and you haven't already seen it, there is also a completely free intermediate lesson, which you can do on my website as well. You can go to ivies-corner.com and then click in the menu and find freebies, learn Zentangle and freebies, and it's there for you. I'm going to crack on with the other side here. So again, I'm sort of holleyboring, which is drawing behind something that exists on the tile already. So imagining where this line would come underneath this shape that exists on top and then popping it out the other side to continue it. And restating my string line on both sides. And then I'm going to draw a line down the center to split that. And then I'm going to do my, let's say, perpendicular lines to create my grid. Now, if you want to be really specific and on the point with matching everything together, you can make sure you have the same number of sections. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to do whatever it looks like it wants. I am quite relaxed when it comes to Zentangle. I don't use compasses. I don't use rulers. I don't use measurements really. I just kind of let it happen. And there's definitely a time and a place for doing all of those things. But generally, if I say I can't be bothered, that sounds bad, doesn't it? But I can't be bothered a lot of the time. That said, I do if I'm doing something that is more like a mandala style on like a circular Zendala tile, like a round one, that looks a bit like this. I've just drawn I drew the same string on this Zendala. It's got a score mark down the middle because I was doing another project and then I had this spare. I didn't do this with any measurements. I literally eyeballed it. In fact, I think how I did that was I put a square tile on top and sort of roughly marked where the square corners sort of would be. But I do also have another free thing on my website, which is a tile divider. So if you want to kind of evenly mark out stuff and then draw your freehand lines, then you can. So I'm waffling so much. Let's keep going with Flukes. These ones can take a little while to work through. If you are interested in finding out more about Project Pack 10 and the other bits of it, there's like several different pages, lots of different pages. Then I have a blog post on my website which you can visit to have a little look at. In fact, I'm working my way through all of the project packs so that they are currently up to Project Pack 27 has just happened. And I'm working my way through all of them. So I am blogging on my website about my experience of working through each of them. So if you want to find out, Project Pack 10 is on there. If you want to find out more about that project pack, then head over to my website and go to the blog. You'll be able to find well, there's a hub, like a blog post I've done about project packs with links to all my project pack blogs that you can read. I really am talking too much. My throat is going dry. I actually also have, if you're in the UK and you would like to get a project pack 10, I don't tend to stock project packs really, but I do actually have that one in stock because I did an order recently and a few people wanted it. So if you want Project Pack 10, I do have some available and you're in the UK, you can order it from my website. But it is a good one because you end up with this resource at the end that is kind of a tool for tangling rather than just some nice, well, not that ending up with nice tiles is a bad thing, but it gives you a resource to use as per the day. Am I on Instagram? I am on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is Ivy's underscore hyphen no, not hyphen, excuse me. Ivy's underscore corner underscore arts ARTS because Ivy's corner was taken. So you can find me on there. I post as much as I can. And I'm normally waffling away on stories as well. I'm trying to embrace all of the social media. So I'm also on TikTok, even though I think I'm too old for TikTok. I don't really understand it, but I have someone that helps me make some videos for that, and seems to be going quite well. So yeah, TikTok is there. I'm also on YouTube. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I post lots of little kind of short, sped up tangles when I do them. But I also then narrate them. So if you well, I'm working through the HQ tangles at the moment. But I'm going to be doing a series on Inktober. If you know what Inktober is, that is it's kind of like an artist wide online challenge where people will there'll be like someone will come up, I don't know who, but someone comes up with prompts. And generally in the art world it would be like a leaf, and then another day would be the sun, or another day would be, I mean, they come up with like words and kind of prompts that are words for the artist community. So whether you're drawing, illustrating, making, whatever you're doing, you can use those prompts to inspire you to create something in Inktober. However, using those prompts doesn't really work so much for Zentangle. So Stephanie Jennifer is her name. I think her handle is Have Pen Will Draw on Instagram, and she very kindly puts together a Zentangle a Zentangle Inktober each year. So I will be tangling a series of that on YouTube and on my other social media in October. And that's nice because the series that I've been doing, or everything that I've been doing so far, mostly is HQ tangles. So this will give me some prompts to do something a little bit different. I think there'll be some HQ tangles as well, but lots of other ones from other people. There's all sorts of people. Well, people create tangles, and may very well be some people here in this Zoom room who have stepped out their own tangles. Can't see anyone waving at me to tell me that that's them, but maybe it's you. But yeah, there's, I mean, thousands upon thousands of different patterns. So I think it would be too much of a stretch goal to try and do them all and record myself doing all of them, but I will see how many I can get through. So I'm nearly at the end of Flukes here. Just finishing off a couple more. Bit of an idea at the bottom there. There we go. Right, I feel like that's taken ages. What time is it? Oh, we've got a bit of time left. Okay, so I have my 2 tangles. I'm thinking I'm going to add 2 more tangles, but in these spaces here, so opposing spaces. But let's see what we end up with. I hope everybody else is okay if I crack on and do another dice roll. Let's do it. Excuse me, I am getting a very dry throat from doing too much talking. Right, here is my L5 once again. I wonder what we'll end up with this time. If I do roll one of those two tangles we've used so far, then I will probably pick another one. 6. Printemps. Printemps. Sorry to the French people for my appalling French pronunciation of that lovely tangle. Printemps is a tangle from HQ. I mean, they all are on this L5, which is essentially lots of little spirals or spring. They look like little springs, and so I think it's taken from the French word for spring, and that is what that is called. So, how am I going to do my printemps? Well, I think I am going to. What should I do? I think I'm going to my instinct is to just fill these spaces with Pranon, but I think I'm gonna keep my borders in play here. So I'm not going to come off of the edge of the tile just to kind of give it a little bit more of a separation and almost be a bit like a frame. But I'm going to tangle. It doesn't really matter which of these I go in because they're all, going to be interacting with these other tangles that I've placed here. But I'm going to start by one of the ways I really like to do printemps, the standard sort of tangle pattern would be to do a nice little spiral, which is essentially just a repeating C curve, like this in a little circular kind of formation, and then you would tuck them in behind or next to each other. But one of my favorite ways to do printemps is to use it like an oval shape. So I think I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do them fairly big to fill this space. I'm going to start in the center and move them out, I think. Or maybe I'll start outside and move them in. Let's do that. So I'm going to draw kind of an ovally shaped one like this. And the thing with printemps, in fact, funnily enough, I posted a video. If you follow me on Instagram or any of the other channels, I literally posted this video today. So you can find it there. When you draw the first one, as similarly to what I said earlier about the first thing you draw on the tile being at the top of the tile, this would also be the case for printemps because you're hollow boring and tucking things behind each other. So the first one you draw is going to be the one that kind of floats above the rest. Unless you do it in a separate place. Let me show you what I mean. If I draw one next to this one here, when I come to shade it, I'm going to pick up my pen when I reach it and then bring it around here and imagine where it would go. This one, it will be shaded to sit above this one here. However, I could do another one over here and that will look like it's on top of its own little pile. Like so. Except it's a hollow board under here. So I'm just going to draw my nice little spirals. And this one really is going to hollow bore under its mates here. I'm going to just mute myself for a second so I can cough because I really am losing my voice a little bit here. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, I'm just drawing my printemps spirals here. I'm going to tuck them in. And my idea here is that I'm starting slightly larger. Like this is going to look like the top, and they'll maybe get smaller as I come in. Or almost like they're tucking in more as they come in, like they're falling underneath a big pile of spirals. And when you have this, any little spaces like this, I've just done a little line as a bit of an idea, like a filler. But the benefit of the people who are new to Zentangle, you will find that all of these patterns can be created by drawing one or a combination of what we call the elemental strokes in Zentangle. And those elemental strokes are I, or they look like I, C, S, and O. So if you can write those letters, you can create any pattern that you would see in the Zentangle world. A straight line and a dot, a C curve, which could be that way or it could be reverse, an S curve, which could be the regular way or reversed, and a circle or an orb, as we call it, because a circle implies perfection. And when you hand draw things, it's not going to be a perfect circle. And these, as I said, these little spirals are just repeating C curves in one go. One after another, linked together. So I'm just tucking that last little one in there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm loosely following my borderline. These borderlines and string lines aren't there to, you know, restrict you. If you want to draw over them or ignore them completely, then you can. They're just kind of there to give you a bit of a guide. Sometimes I like to draw a completely random string because it's such a surprise to see what ends up coming out of that. I'm tucking these in behind each other. These oval shapes are not in the same direction all the time. They're kind of like randomly tossed onto a pile. These like discs. I'm not gonna do it on this occasion, but one of my favorite things to do with Pranon is to add some weighting to one side of the spiral lines. But because I don't want to, I don't know what's coming next, so I don't want to always add things when I feel like they might. I can always add them later, add a bit of love later. But you can kind of keep changing your mind and make decisions as you go with this. It doesn't have to be, you know, planning, as you can tell, is not something you really need to worry about too much. I mean, I planned the string, but this is not, this is kind of I wanted to kind of play with this element of chance and show you that you can create something even if you feel, you know, uninspired maybe, or you don't know what to do to start with. So there's my Pranon spirals. I don't know how everybody else is doing. Let me come onto the gallery view and see. Oh, there's a tile bit. Oh, lovely. One of my favorite things is to see what everyone's done and how they have interpreted. Ellie's is looking lovely. Honestly, when I run classes and I get to see, oh, someone's got a sketchbook there. Lovely. Oh, lovely, lovely. Oh, can't wait at the end. If you're happy to, we'll all hold them up. And actually, it would be amazing. Oh my goodness, that's a big one there. That's amazing. Right, I'm gonna get distracted by looking at everyone's work so far because I will just keep staring at it. I feel like some people maybe still had a little bit more Pranon to do, so I will forge ahead because otherwise we'll be here all evening. I'm gonna add one more bit of flu here because it was asking me to add a line in. And actually there as well. So you can always go back and add more if you want to. And the interesting thing, oh, sorry, I'm coming off camera. The interesting thing actually that you will find is that you can kind of keep coming back to layering tangles. And I kind of explore that in one of my courses a bit, in one of the lessons in my next steps course, about layering and how if you come back to tangles that you've already placed on the tile, then you can kind of play with how things kind of go over and under. Because obviously the things that you've placed first are at the top, and then you can come back to placing something that you did place first later on and it goes behind everything, so you kind of, but we're talking about advanced techniques there, so let's not do that now. Right, I'm going to roll the dice again and see what we have next. I always feel a bit nervous at this bit, trying to I wonder what's going to come next. I don't know what I'm hoping for. We'll see. We'll see what we get. Okay. 18. Bales. That's cool because Bales is quite like it's not as heavy as some of the other tangles. So I'm excited by that, and I do like Bales. Bales was one of the first tangles that I ever learnt. So that is what we're going to do now. And what will I do? I am going to draw Bales on a sort of a more regular sort of grid compared to the flukes that went off on a tangent. I'm going to draw my Bales. I'm going to use my borderline here as one of my grid lines. If you are still working on your Pranon, you're still working on your flukes, you're still working on a flue, just carry on. There's no nothing that says you have to get this finished today. If you want to carry on working on it later, if you don't get the tile finished, then that's absolutely fine. Don't rush to try and keep up if you are not where I am. Okay, let's draw Bales. So I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to restate my borderline here. And I'm going to keep my grid fairly large because I don't want it to be too teeny tiny, as I said before. And I'm going to just bring it straight down here. And then an idea of one here. And that's where it's going to sit. And then with Bales, once you've placed your grids, in the same way, we've drawn a more regular grid here compared to what we did with Flukes. We are going to just do some nice little lines, curved lines, C curves, and forwards and backwards C curves from edge to edge. So I'll show you Bales in the same way I showed you Flukes when we started it off, and we started just by doing the one sort of square of this pattern, the fragment, if you will, of this pattern. And so I'll just do one Bales in this square, and then I'll show you, and you can go ahead and repeat it in any way that this feels comfortable for you. Bales is simply a C curve connecting the corners together. So like that. And then turning my tile and doing the same thing here. So that is your basic Bales pattern, but repeated, you're obviously going to end up with like a seed shape across this grid line. And one of the things that I like to do is to kind of bounce these lines along like this. So I'll do all of my vertical ones as I go down, like so. And then I will do the same thing on the other side. And I'm kind of just having an idea roughly of where this would be disappearing behind the flue. And on that side there. And then once I've done all of the ones on this side, I'm going to turn my tile and do, because I like to draw towards myself. I'm doing it the other way there, but just to get the right place for that line. But then I'm doing it on the outside too, just to soften that outer line. And then draw my curves. So this is nice because it's another grid tangle, but it's quite soft in comparison to Flukes. My cat is trying to come into the room. I've shut him out and he's trying to break in. So if my cat comes and he's meowing at me now. I think my husband's gonna let him in. There we go. So he just wants his dinner. Sorry, Bernard. He's called Bernard. Sorry, Bernard. Right. Okay, so there's it's quite a quick one to complete that, and I like it because it's quite sort of light, it's not too heavy. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to restate my borderline and then do my grid lines. roughly keeping them a nice sort of squarish shape. And then I will go ahead and draw my C curves in place. On either side of each line. Yeah, this is a nice one. There's all sorts of things you can do to kind of embellish it further. If you wanted to, you could add an additional line. So you could just repeat this whole process by adding an additional kind of, I'm going to call it a tethered aura to your seed shape. And for those of you who are new, if you imagine, I mean, I'll do it here. Here's your grid. And if you had your Bales shape like so, I mean, it's very small on this, but a tethered aura would be auraing this line that you've drawn, but keep this beginning and ending it where it's kind of the line you're auraing starts, if that makes sense. So starting here and then just auraing, but tethering either end to the point that you're starting at. And by doing that, it just fills more of your space and is quite, it kind of almost looks a little bit more organic. That's a fun one to do. But I think I've got enough lines going on here for now, so I'm not going to do that on mine. If you want to do it on yours, then feel free. This is quite a simple, classic Bales tangle without any embellishments, but it will look quite effective when we shade it. And the shading will be the next step that we do. I mentioned before about filling in the bits in between my flue, and I think now that I have filled in the rest of my tangles, I'm actually going to go back and do that quickly because I think it will look quite nice to have a bit more of an inky space mirroring this inky flukes that I've got here. So I'm just going to spend a moment quickly doing, well, not quickly, I want to take my time, but inking these spaces in and just really paying attention to where my aura lines are, because it's quite easy when you have a lot of line work here to kind of ink in the section that perhaps you didn't intend to, not the wrong section. There's no such thing as doing it wrong. But perhaps making a hasty pen stroke that you later, you know, perhaps think it should have been left. So just take your time and think about the sections that you want to add that ink to. And you might have a lot more, you have a lot more blue, you know, all bunched together and less space to fill with ink. And you might decide that inking in doesn't feel right for your tile. That's completely fine. You can just do whatever works for you, whatever works for your tile, and whatever is appealing to you, because you know everything's so subjective. You know, I felt like mine needed it, but you know, if you look at yours, you might disagree for yours, and that's completely fine. So just taking your time when you're adding that ink. Cat's going crazy. The cat always goes crazy at this time of evening. He's like making weird noises and running around in circles. Oh dear. I mean, you probably can't hear it, but I'll try not to get too distracted by him going crazy. I feel like that looks kind of cool. It kind of mirrors the flukes there. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time inking that in. There's something very relaxing about watching the ink flow from the pen, I think. a lot of people, when they aren't really familiar with Zentangle, they say, "Oh, is that like the the meditative adult colouring in?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, not really, but elements of it are." I suppose elements of this is exactly. I suppose it's exactly the same right now. What I'm doing, isn't it? Spending time putting filling in those spaces. So there are definitely similarities for sure. And actually, you could probably, once you've done your tangling, you can go back and then fill it in with colour if you want to, and then you would have your own colouring to do your own work. I think lots of people do make colouring books from Zentangle patterns. So I am almost done here. I'm quite pleased how this has turned out, given that I had absolutely no idea what it was going to look like at the beginning of the lesson. Next week's one is a bit more planned. I thought I'd do a few different things in the 3 free lessons that I'm running. If you're not signed up for next week, then obviously there's still time to do so. If you can't make it live, that's fine. You can just sign up. It's the same sign up link. And I will send you the emails just because they're sort of automated. But I will also then send you the link to the recording as well. So you will have it. There we go. Right. There is all of my ink and my line work done, and I am going to pick up my pencil and start shading. I was hoping to finish with you by 9:30, and I feel like we will roughly be doing that, so that's all good. So back to my little steps of the Zentangle method. Step number 7 is shading. No, step number 6 is shading. So we're going to create some depth to this. This is, I mean, obviously super fun and looks really nice as it is, but adding the shade is really what brings it to life. So what I would recommend that you do, and I always try to remember to do this, is to take a picture of what you have done so far. I'm going to do that now and take a quick photo. Oh no, you can't see if I do that. Let's do this over here. My other phone is I'm going to take a quick snap just so that I can then compare it to what I do when I end up adding the shade. And it's really fun just to see the difference. So I will pick up my pencil, and these pencils are this length for a reason. If you have a regular size pencil, I've actually, is Irene still here? I've got Irene's Scottish pencil from I think she gave it to me at Zen again in April. If you have a long pencil, then you can also use that. The short ones are just easier to hold kind of horizontally, or as horizontally as possible to the paper. So that's why they're this length. If you don't have one this length, it's fine. It's just you want to try and oh, she's still here. There you go, Irene. There's your pencil. You can fill it in kind of a shade with your pencil as horizontally as possible, basically. If you're familiar with shading, then you will know what to do. If you're not, I would suggest just turning your paper over, or on a different piece of paper if you're in a sketchbook, and just placing down a little bit of pencil. Maybe you could even use these lines if you've got a Zentangle tile just alongside the line like so. And then we're going to pick up this thing here, which is called the torsion, and this blends the graphite that we've placed down. So it doesn't obviously have anything in it. It's just a tool to move the graphite around. And to do that, you're going to just go over it with little circles and sort of press it down, invite it into the paper fibers, and then you can just, using a very light touch, so lighter as you move away, just gently encourage that graphite away from where it's darkest, and that's going to create a really interesting and really nice gradient. So if you're new to shading, then please feel free to have a little practice before you dive in on your tile. But I will show you how I would go about shading this. Obviously with shading, it's again completely up to you how you want to do it. I'll work around them in the order that we tangled. I'm going to emphasize some of the over and under with my flue here. So I'm going to be placing graphite where things kind of disappear or reappear from beneath each other. So anywhere where there's a section that disappears beneath or reappears above. And I'm trying to be careful not to put too much graphite, or any at all really, on the black inky sections, because if you add the graphite to the black inky sections, it just makes that black inky section look less black and more shiny. So it's best to try and avoid it. And some, like this section here, has ended up being completely full of graphite because it's sort of pushing everything back. And I'm just adding it wherever things disappear and reappear with my flue. And I'm going to add some more graphite shortly, but I'll do that either side of the other one. Well, I'll do that onto the other tangles either side, but when we get to those, I'll add it in. So there's my graphite I've placed there. And then with my tortillon, I got myself a lovely new tortillon in honour of the occasion. So it's a nice fresh one. The rest of mine look very well loved. I'm going to just gently, and I'm not going to pull it away too much from the darkest point here, just really just gently soften that graphite I've placed down, because I do want to, the key thing with shading is to retain highlights. So we don't want to, unless like there's some sections that are really, you know, we do want to look dark, like this section here that's sort of falling behind this line and this top part of the flue here. It's fine for that all to be grey, but generally you want to retain some white, because if you shade everything and everything ends up grey, then it all just looks grey rather than you know, gradients. You're creating gradients of the dark sort of shadow. So from the blackest black up to the whitest white. So it's important to always have a little bit of both. And I'm just softening that gently. And you can see how that's already started. If you compare it to the other side, to really, you know, come alive and look like it's kind of moving around. I'm going to turn my tile and do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So just adding a touch here and there. I think one thing I was going to say actually that I forgot to mention was that I mentioned before that I've written a blog, another blog, which is coming out tomorrow. When you signed up to these sessions, it hasn't automatically opted you in to receive the newsletter, because that's not what you asked to do. But if you would like to receive my newsletter, I send a newsletter normally weekly on a Wednesday. So if you want to sign up to it, then you can, please feel free to do so. There should be a link in your email that you've received with the link for this. And I will also put one in the email I'll send after. But I just keep you up to date with blogs I'm writing, things I'm working on, any lessons and courses and things that I'm working on as well that you might like to do. So yeah, it would be lovely to have you on the mailing list if you would like to join. And if you sign up this evening, then it should pick you up to send you in tomorrow's newsletter with that blog that I mentioned. There we go. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to move on to my flukes. Now, there is a couple of different ways you can shade flukes. I think I'm going to do the way that involves a little bit more shade. So you could, if you wanted to, shade it so that you kind of are keeping this as one line and then this is another line. But to do that, I'll do both because I have to do one, do the other. I'm going to just place some graphite here. Again, not on the black sections there, because that's going to make them look less black, but just right down that center there. And it's going to make it look like there's kind of two columns, one above the other, like so. So you can choose to do that with your flukes and leave it at that. Or if you want, you can. In fact, I'll tell you what. Well, no, I'll just do it on here. I think I'm going to do the other version, which is to also then add some graphite here, because this will make it look almost, I think it kind of looks like scales, because it's like each of these sections is laying above its neighbours. So you're basically shading where your auras stop at a perpendicular line. the white pencil. This is not a pencil. Oh, pencil is the pencil. Sorry, there's a few people asking questions. Is the pencil a 2B? This Zentangle pencil, as far as I'm aware, is just an HB pencil. There is no special kind of. It's just a regular pencil, so you can use any regular HB pencil, and it will work fine. If you want to do some more depth, add some more depth to your shading, then you can absolutely start playing around with different softness or depth of graphite. You can definitely do that. I do have a few other tools that I normally like to use, which are a bit blacker or darker, but for the sake of today, I'm just using the Zentangle H pencil, which is an HB. This is not a pencil. This is a tightly rolled paper stump or paper tortillon, and you can kind of see it's just a rolled up piece of paper. Now you can buy these at most craft stores, I think in the UK. I think Hobbycraft have them. You can get them from Amazon. And this is not a pencil. This is moving the graphite that you placed with your pencil around. So very quickly, I'll show you again. You place the pencil down, and then you can use this to move that graphite around. Now, because I'm using this, it does look like it has graphite in it, but it's not a pencil. I hope that's okay, and you get the gist there. Again, if you are in the UK, I do have a few of these different supplies, the Zentangle supplies available to buy if you need to get hold of them, but you can get these tortillons from Hobbycraft in the UK and from Amazon. Right, so I was just adding my graphite to both sides of my flukes, and I'm going to just gently soften it. And when I soften it, I'm just going over what I've placed gently, not pressing hard, and just sort of encouraging it to stick into the paper fibres. And then you can gently move a little further away to create more of a gradient. I don't want to go crazy with that because I want to make sure I'm retaining lots of white space. What I've forgotten to do is add some along this side, so I will do that. But yeah, this is a fun one because it does give it lots and lots of depth and dimension for sure. Some tangles lend themselves more to shading than others. And again, you can just compare how that looks to the other side. And it's really, really cool, I think. I'm aware that we are nearly at 9:30, and we've been going for quite a long time. So I apologise. If you need to leave, then please feel free to disappear. I won't be offended. And you can catch up on the recording. But the shading, I think, often doesn't take too long, really. You can spend a long time shading if you enjoy that element of it. And actually, the more you do, I think, with Zentangle, the more you will enjoy it. Because I started out being a bit not sure about shading. But now it's one of my favourite parts. I feel like I've been having a conversation with people, but I have literally just been talking at you for an hour and a half, so it's no wonder my throat's getting a bit dry. But yeah, we're getting there with the shading, and hopefully you can already see the difference in how it's transforming your tile. If this is the first time you've ever done Zentangle, then it can be a little bit daunting to start going over all of the lovely pen work that you've done with pencil. But yeah, trust the process because it's it's really good. I'm going to go back in just a little bit deeper next to these flue bits that are joined together because I'm keeping those free of graphite but lifting it more. Now with the Pranon, I am going to just shade around the perimeter of each circle. So find the ones that you drew first and point your pencil to where you want to be the most precise. I'm avoiding getting any graphite within this spiral. So I want to go right around the outside, and it's okay that it goes on top of the other ones, but the one that you're focusing on at that moment, just make sure that the graphite stays outside of it. And it does look quite amazing. It's quite clever how suddenly it starts to then float above everything else. I mean, you can see just there how, especially once I blend this, those two Pranon there are just like popping right off the page now, which is quite amazing how that little bit of graphite can make that difference. And now I'm just going to go all around the rest of them. So for some of them, I'll end up going across, if I'm kind of thinking about it as the key one, it still ends up kind of covered in graphite when you're doing the perimeter of another, but don't worry too much about it. Just go around the edge of each one and try not to go like put loads and loads of graphite down. A little bit is plenty. But this really just creates an effect of them all stacking on top of each other. And this one at the bottom here, I'm going to fill in with graphite so it's like it's disappearing. And then just gently go around and soften all of those. And it doesn't take much to really give it a sense of layering. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So starting with the ones that I drew first, going right around the perimeter. I will just also say, like in a similar vein to just being aware of the inky spaces that you place on your tile with the Flukes and with the Flu. Just be mindful of where your hand is sitting, because now you've got a lot of graphite on your tile, you may find it smudges. So just try to keep your hand placed as far placed away from your tile. If you want to get a separate piece of paper and use it to sort of cover where you're resting your hand, you can do that. But just be aware that you might end up with a slightly smudgy side of the hand. And so I'm just going right around the outside, again pointing my pencil to where I want it to be the most precise, so up against the edge and the perimeter of those spirals. And that bottom one's going to get totally filled in because it's hiding beneath everything else. And then again pointing my tortillon to where I want to be precise, and then just using it to soften that graphite. So I'm not pressing hard. It's hard to kind of give a sense of my technique with the tortillon because it's something that you just sort of have to get the hang of. But you don't need to use a lot of pressure. If you press too hard, this will disappear into itself and suddenly become very stubby and flat at the top. So gently just maneuvering that graphite around is going to preserve your tortillon as well. For Bales, I am going to simply place a little nugget of graphite in each of these intersections, like so. I'll do both sides. And then I'm going to soften it and just bring it out gently away from that center section, and that's going to kind of give it almost like a look like a like I would say like a mattress where you have those what's the word, like the little buttons almost that kind of pull it down. It kind of looks like I don't know if that's the right analogy, if I've confused people more, but it kind of just looks like these central sections are pushing down away from the eye, basically. Anything that's shaded, it pushes away from you. But do maintain some highlights in the in-between sections, because otherwise, if everything is shaded, then nothing is shaded, is what I often say. So just gently softening those within each of these little shapes. And there is my shading. The final thing I'm going to do is just go around the edges of my Flukes and my Flu, I think, and I'm probably just going to do it on this outside section, so on the same side, and I might revise my decision in a second, but I'm going around the right hand side of each of them. If I was doing it again and I've thought about it for more than a millisecond. I might have done it on the other side actually as a preference, but here we are. If you want to do yours on the other side, then you can. So I'm going right around the edges of all of these on one side. And my hope is that that will just make it look, it's like dropping those Pranon. I'm going to go kind of undoing a lot of the work I did on the Pranon, but that's fine. It's just dropping it all down and lifting up my sort of spinning sections. Like so. If you are working on a coloured tile, then I assume you are familiar with highlighting and therefore can go crazy with any highlights you might like to add to your tile. But for me, do I want to add it on it? I think I do want to add it on the other side, you know. I'm going to just bring it another line of graphite around this side as well. Certainly on the Flukes, I might not do it on the Flu. I'm just going to blend this in here. I think a few people are having to go. Thank you so much if you have to go. And thank you for your kind words as well, everyone. There we go. Right, I've softened that in and I am happy with that. Enjoyed that tile. It looks, I mean, this is the thing I always think is that you don't know what you're going to get when you start with something, you know, the element of chance in Zentangle is very surprising, and I always enjoy doing something that I wasn't expecting. I'm going to add my chop. If you're new to Zentangle, a chop is just your kind of little, sort of like a sort of initials or a signature or something, or a mark that makes you know that it's your tile. Mine is a little bit like my Ivy's Corner logo, like that. And then you can turn your tile over and sign it to claim your artwork as your own. Back to our final step number 7 here, initial and sign. So you can do your signature. The date is, well, I'm in the UK, so I'm going to do it the UK way. It's the 9th. Well, actually, it'll be the same either way, wouldn't it? That's handy. In America, it's also the 9th of the 9th. 25. And yeah, you can maybe just make a note about the class that you're following with me, so you remember when you did it. But there is your finished tile. And the final step of the Zentangle method is appreciate again. So you can just take a moment to maybe take another photograph of what you've done and compare it to what it looked like before you shaded it, hold it at arm's length, turn it this way and that, see which way up you like it the best. I'm really pleased with that. I was a bit worried about what we were going to end up with, but I'm really pleased and I think it came together really nicely. Thank you for people's comments in the chat. That's really nice. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. If anyone would like to is happy to be potentially on YouTube, if I spotlight you, then we might end up seeing you, or people who watch the recording will see, but it might be nice for people to share. If you want to show what you've created, I would love to see. And oh, Ellie's gone for it. I'm going to do Ellie first and I'll come back to people in a second. Ellie, lovely work.
Thank you. I love that, Becky.
Oh, thank you. I really love you've got a little extra border there. I love your flukes, look amazing with their like mirroring. And I really love it. It's amazing. I love it.
It's a lot of fun.
I've done a little bit of waiting on the Pranon, and I love how some of them are escaping as well. And you've done Fife instead of Bales, am I right?
Possibly, not intentionally.
No, well, the diagonal
Yeah,
sleeve
I put one of the diagonals in.
Yeah, I like that one too. That's one of my favourites. Oh, wonderful. Love it. Really, really nice. Thank you for sharing. Who else have we got? Fee? I'm going to spotlight you. Lovely. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's fabulous.
Thank you. This is
really lovely. I love all of your beautiful Pranon all nestled in together. They're really having a party there, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I like how your flue is like quite elegant, like in it's kind of a repeating pattern rather than being random and all over the place. It's in a really nice kind of elegant pattern.
Wasn't intentional, but
Oh, it's lovely. Oh, well done. I love it. Who else have we got? Anyone else like to share? Oh, there's a few people. Oh, we've got a lovely one here. Let me. Oh, there's lots of people waving at me. Hold on a sec. We might not have time to see all of you. Oh, I don't know if this one has. I feel like whoever this is just vanished from me. So let me see if anyone else is holding one up. Anyone else want to? Ina, let me put you on spotlight. Oh, wow. Oh, look at that. What colour is that you've used? Have you used colour? Not sure.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
let me
yeah.
see.
I did use a brown fine liner and like a reddish chalk
Oh,
pencil. What's
beautiful.
it
Really
called?
lovely. I really
Röt.
love the addition of colour, and I love you've done some weighting on the corner of your flukes as well. That's really effective. I love how it looks like it's kind of going up a ladder almost. It's brilliant. I wish I'd done that now. Really lovely. Thank you so much for
Well, thank
sharing.
you.
Oh, lovely. I've got you here. Are you're Chris, I assume? Hello, Chris.
Yes.
Let me see you. Oh, wow. Oh, look at that inky border. Oh, and you've
And
got
the
some.
border was kind of messy, so I went over it in black.
I love it. It looks really bold. It's beautiful. And I really like your you've got well in your bales as well.
Yes.
That's gorgeous.
Thank
Really
you.
nice. I love the bold lines. Fabulous. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing. I think maybe we'll have one more if anyone else wants to share. Anybody else? No? Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. Hello.
I
How do
don't
I
know
say
if
your
I
name,
was
my
in
love?
because I almost crashed.
Oh no. I think I tried to spotlight you before and then I lost you. But I love this. Look at this rectangle. Is that just a? It's not a fire tile, is it? It's just a rectangular piece of paper.
No,
But
it's more or less an ace. I think I got.
oh, it's wonderful. I love this. I love your flukes is like really you've shaded it slightly differently to how I did mine, like almost a bit like cubine. It looks really like there's so much depth in there. I love it.
Yeah, I did it in different ways on one side and the other because I wanted to see how it worked.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I love the inky spaces behind your Pranon as well, because it really marries up with everything else that's inky there. That's fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. I'll put myself back on Spotlight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed talking at you for an hour and a half. I hope I haven't waffled too much and you were able to enjoy a little bit of peace rather than just me chatting away. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I am doing this again next week and the week after at the same time. I'd say the same place. I'll be in the same place, but don't come to this link because it won't work. So that if you're coming to the one on the 16th, there will be a link that you can join. If you've signed up already, you probably have that link. If you haven't signed up but you want to, then please feel free. Come one, come all. Everyone is welcome. Likewise for the 23rd. And actually on the 23rd, I will be opening after the session, I'll be opening access to my membership, which I'm starting the following week on the 30th. So there will be some more information about that if you're interested. But thank you so much again for joining me. And I've had a lovely time. And if you can, I would love if you could share these tiles with me. So either via email, just reply to the email that I'll send you in a little bit with the recording. If you're watching the recording, please feel free to send it to me as well, because what I'd really love to do is make a mosaic of everyone's work. To kind of, I think this will look really, really cool as a mosaic, this tile. So thank you so much. And if you're coming next week, I'll see you next week. If you're not, and I won't, but I'll see you maybe the week after and maybe at some point in the future. But thank you so much again for
Thank
tangling with
you.
me, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.